They're the very words Hawaii hates to hear. Hurricane season. But they're the very words we can't afford to ignore. Nearly 22 years have passed since the big one hit, but the memories linger and the threat never goes away. Right now, storm prep's made easy. Just the basics, just the essentials. This is KITV4's Hurricane 2014 Need to Know.
Aloha. I'm Moanike Alan-Navarro of the KITV4 Weather Team, and we're here to make sure you're ready for the 2014 hurricane season. It feels like this season got here quickly, we know, and you may think you don't have time to prepare. We know that too. But trust us on this. You really need to have some sort of plan, so we're making it simple. No frills, nothing too complicated. It's just the advice you need to know this hurricane season. The first thing you need to know is what type of season we're anticipating. El Nino is looking very likely this year. And if you remember, both hurricanes Eva and Iniki both occurred during El Nino years. Every year, hurricane tracking gets more advanced and more accurate. That gives us a better chance to be ready for advancing trouble. KITV4 meteorologist Pete Cajano shows us how the so-called forecast cone keeps changing shapes.
In 2007, the forecast cone was 264 miles wide 5 days out. In 2014, because of improved forecasting and computer miles, the forecast cone has shrunk. Now it's only 190 miles wide 5 days out. A better forecast to keep you prepared. It's important to remember the center of the storm can not only pass down the middle of the cone, but also the extreme left or right side of the cone. So any spot in the cone could see a direct impact. In fact, nearly a third of all storms will at one point be outside the perimeters of this cone, meaning if your town is inside or even near the cone, you should make sure you're prepared. These tracks are updated often, usually every 6 hours, so stay tuned to KITV4 on air and KITV.com online for the latest updates.
So many people hear us talk about hurricane preps, then look around the house and think, where do I even start? Let's bring in Paul Drews with what you can get started on.
We don't have to wonder what would happen if a hurricane were to hit Hawaii. It's happened before. Since Iniki, Hawaii's building codes have been strengthened, requiring construction of new homes to be able to handle higher winds during a hurricane.
Because a storm pushes the roof up like a wing and pushes the structure sideways, we want the body to be as stiff as possible.
While new homes are better anchored, there are thousands of homes 50 years old or older. It's not just the age of a home, but also its construction. Single-walled structures lack a second layer of support to help hold a house together.
If the roof lifts, then the house will go sideways, the windows will break out, and then you've got a real bad situation.
A roof simply anchored with nails would have some hold-down force.
For your average 1,200 square foot or 1,000 square foot house, having one SUV on the roof.
That sounds like a lot of weight, but the more powerful the winds, the more lift is generated. Here in Hawaii, we frequently see old and unanchored roofs start to come apart during high wind events, which may not even reach hurricane speeds of 74 miles an hour. There are ways to make sure homes are better anchored by reinforcing walls and roofs with hurricane clips, which properly installed don't double or triple the hold-down force, but provide up to 8 times the anchoring power.
These little pieces of metal make a difference.
The roof is just one vulnerable area of your home during a storm.
Even if you have a late model house, the windows are going to be your whole ball game for flying debris.
That debris can be whipped around by even tropical storm force winds, turning broken branches and small objects into mini missiles. Some people prepare for a storm by boarding up windows and doors, but not everyone can.
Everybody says, oh, tape your windows. Well, the problem with taping your windows is that the rain hits it and it peels right off. Or if it didn't hit you and you use duct tape, it leaves a sticky goo on there that when the sun hits it, it bakes on.
There is something new on the home protection market.
This is like a red insurance policy.
Storm tape that doesn't unravel with the water, but can peel off after the storm without leaving residue. There are also various versions that come with fiber reinforcement to make the tape even stronger. Taping windows won't stop them from breaking if they're hit with large enough pieces of debris, but it could keep those bits of broken glass together, cutting down on the shards being sent into a home and also making cleanup after the storm easier.
So your home might be as safe and secure as you can make it, but what about your neighborhood? Pete Cajano shows us there are plenty of potential dangers all around you.
Loose materials like these items, metal boxes, garbage cans, even things like pieces of metal and ice chests, these can all get picked up and used and become missiles during a hurricane.
John Cummings from the Department of Emergency Management reminds us that hurricanes do not obey property lines. Your neighbor's loose items can be just as dangerous as your own.
Even simple things like yard art and plant pots, these can also be picked up by the wind. Your lanais and decks, securing loose items, bringing them into the house, lawn chairs, children's yard toys.
Check your property first, but then look at your neighbors. Identify problem areas and offer to help. To find one often overlooked area, all you have to do is look up.
Another consideration is trees around your property like this, where the power lines are coming through. Keep those trimmed back. They collapse, they could impact a neighbor's house. They could make it harder for you to regenerate if your power lines get cut down.
John says get to know your neighbor. Develop a relationship. That way you can help each other weather the storm.
I'll catch them when they're leaving the house, or say hi and talk about how you're going to prepare each other's homes and work this issue together as a community.
A hard-charging hurricane can be a triple threat to us here in the islands: wind, rain, and flooding. The initial onslaught is what most people think about when a storm hits. Roofs torn off, homes knocked down, pure brute strength. Being in a high-rise doesn't necessarily protect you. The higher you get, the more powerful that wind can become. Equally dangerous, all that rain. Even during a smaller scale storm, flooding becomes a huge issue, especially in areas that tend to collect water in everyday rainstorms. Think about how much your life has changed in the past 5 to 10 years. You do your banking online, you store your pictures on the computer. Well, your storm preparations have to change too. Adjust to the new way you're doing things. If you're like most people, losing your computer is one thing. Losing all that information that's on it, a whole different ballgame. That data is priceless, so make sure it's backed up.
Once or twice a day, someone comes in tears, and they've lost a dissertation, they've lost the children's photos, they've lost the love letters, they've lost something that it's priceless.
Computer experts say the safest plan is to use an off-site backup like a cloud, and your computer data is always available. As long as we're talking computers, make sure KITV.com is in your favorites. We'll keep you up to the minute on storm info, and make sure to download our hurricane app. If you like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, we'll send updated info right into your feed. Lots more to talk about this hurricane season. Shelters, supplies, boats, and insurance are among them. As we head to break, meteorologist Paul Drews shows us how a hurricane forms.
A hurricane can only form in certain conditions at specific locations. What's first needed is warm ocean water. That provides the energy through evaporation. As that water evaporates, the air becomes more humid and clouds form. That rising cloud cover pulls up air below it and convection forms. If the winds are blowing from the same direction at the same speeds, thunderstorms can be created. But those storms need to have waters 80 degrees or warmer to sustain energy for that storm. And if all of this activity takes place in the tropics, the spin of the Earth will cause that cluster of thunderstorms to rotate. If it has winds less than 38 miles an hour, it is a tropical depression. As it intensifies and has winds between 39 and 73 miles an hour, it becomes a tropical storm. More intense systems with wind speeds over 74 miles an hour become a hurricane.